we're going to be getting into all of that. But I did want to start with the Chelsea conversation because they lost last night and they were taken apart for large periods of the game. And it wasn't a great scoreline, but it is pre-season. But the sort of polarization, the warring almost between Chelsea fans online, it feels like it's hit epic new levels. So, I mean, it's not even early in a campaign. It's premature to a campaign. It hasn't begun, like, literally. And I'm genuinely seeing real people I respect, say Maresca out. Some going the other way where they're saying, like, these games, these moments, these performances mean absolutely nothing, which I also think is crazy, especially when a manager trying to implement his style. But what's your take, firstly, on last night's game, the performance, and what went wrong?
Bro, do you know what? I haven't even had a chance to watch the game, Terry, because I was out last night, and I tried to find where I can watch it. I just couldn't find anywhere. But I've seen the highlights, and obviously when I was out yesterday, the group chat was going crazy. All the Chelsea boys, Gem and that, they were all keeping me updated on how the game was going. From what they were saying, it sounded like we were playing better on the ball in comparison to what we did against Wrexham. And it sounded like we were missing a lot of chances, right? Which is something that we struggled with last season. But unfortunately, it was off the ball where I heard we were getting cut apart. A lot of individual mistakes. I saw the whole thing with Sanchez, Badiashile, Fofana for one of the goals. It was a mess. It was a mess. And it just looked like, positionally, a lot of these guys still haven't worked out what's needed from them. And Maresca came out after the game and he spoke about it, bro. He said, listen, for me, it was a better performance on the ball in comparison to Wrexham because we created a lot more chances. But these guys don't seem to know when to press. They don't know when to stay. They don't know when to do certain things. And obviously, that's very clear. And for me, that's good that he's come out and said that because I never, ever heard Poch take any accountability. It was always about protecting the players. I'd rather the manager come out and be very transparent so we know what he needs to do for the next game. Do you know what I mean? Because everything that I saw people complaining about yesterday, it was literally what he said went wrong. You know what I mean? So in the next game, I expect him to rectify that mistake, But again, I look at pre-season, it's one of them things where it's not a be-all, end-all, Terry, but there's definitely a lot you can take from it. When it comes to new players, when it comes to a new manager, you want to learn their system. When it comes to fitness, when it comes to cohesion, trial and error. It's all about trial and error. You know what I'm saying? And at the minute, it feels like a lot of Chelsea fans aren't really keen on this Reece James inverting thing. You know what I'm saying? But for me, the best inverter right now at the club is not available. He's on holiday. Cucurella's on holiday. And for me, from what I've seen from Vega, he's a better inverter than Reece James. So we don't know what Maresca's going to do. Do you know what I'm saying?
The inverting element is interesting. And I will say that I think what Reece James inverting and Gusto, when he's come on 2 games running, it's looked awful. But I don't think it's the players. The way it's looked to me, it's transitioning from being a central midfielder to a right back when you lose the ball. In that transition, that's when Chelsea are being cut open. The players, it feels to me that Maresca's making it too complicated.
Because Lavia, you know what's happening, Terry? Lavia's being left on an island by himself, right? He's being left there by himself to cover all this ground, similar to what was happening to Caicedo. So when we're on the transition, you're seeing Reece James go to a back 4, but now Lavia's in all this space by himself. Do you know what I'm saying? That's where you've got to look at the likes of, for example, Caicedo. If Caicedo plays in the box-to-box role, similar to what Ndidi was doing, off the ball, he's the one that's going to drop back and help in that pivot. And then the person that was inverting is going to drop back. Because when I was watching Leicester last season, I was seeing Ndidi doing that a lot. Ndidi was pressing up, and then when they lost the ball, he would drop back, and then you would see them go back into a back 4. So it was like a 4-5-1 that they were playing off the ball. Do you know what I'm saying? So again, it's gonna take time, bro. The guy's been here for 2 weeks. We played Wrexham and Celtic, who are literally on the other end of their pre-season. They start their season next week, bro. You know what I mean? What's realistic is to see gradual improvements every single game. I expect Maresca to improve the off the ball work. I expect the players to understand when to go, when to stay. Do you know what I'm saying? I expect these improvements and I expect to see them in the next game. But people losing their mind saying, get him out, he's going by Christmas. It's people just projecting what they hope to happen. This is what I said to you, Terry, the other day, last week. We spoke about it. I said a lot of Chelsea fans want the club to fail at the minute. So their whole agenda about the manager, about the owners can be true. They don't want to see the club rise. I honestly couldn't believe. Let me not say I couldn't believe, because I can believe it now. A lot of the takes that you lot are seeing now, that rivals are seeing, I've been seeing them for time now, bro. For time. And the thing is, I understand people's frustration, because at the end of the day, these guys have come in, we finished 12th and we finished 6th, right? I understand the frustration, but at the same time, bro, you've got to be real about these things. They take time, bro. I'm not saying Maresca's going to take a year to implement his ideas, but he's been here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. They expect perfection in 2 weeks, bro.
I saw a tweet. I want to throw this to Giuseppe. I want to get a rival view and then go to you, Dom. I've seen this tweet by about 7 or 8 people worded slightly differently, but they've essentially said, we started to gain momentum under Poch. We started to win games. We started to improve. Clear Lake have undone all of that, and now we look worse. What's your view of that, Giuseppe? Do you understand where these Chelsea fans are coming from? Or do you agree with what Don has said? Do you believe this is an agenda just to be able to say, I was right?
I think, for me, I think it's a bit of both, to be honest, because when you see, like, first of all, preseason ain't the be all end all, as Don said, but you do have to watch it. Like, when you get smacked, there's a difference between getting smacked and losing a game. Man United yesterday losing to Arsenal 2-1 isn't that bad. It's preseason. Getting smacked by Celtic can be quite bad for the confidence of the team. Definitely new manager, etc. But it's not the be all end all. Yeah. The thing of what you said, Terry, I agree with both sides of it, because from experience of seeing when Arteta come in and as a manager with lack of experience, he didn't try and do everything straight away. And I think this may be what Maresca's doing wrong for Chelsea. Yeah, he's trying to implement his way straight away. And I don't think sometimes that's the right way to approach it. I think he's got to gradually do that throughout the season, teaching the people on the training ground, but playing a system and a way that the players can currently play. Maybe he'll change that. Maybe this is just pre-season, and when the season starts, he'll start playing a more simple way that will get you wins and get you points and let the players learn on the training ground, rather than telling these guys do the inverted thing on the pitch when they can't do it yet. And then you get cut open and you lose games because the players on the pitch can't do what you're asking them to do yet. And I know maybe, listen, certain man might be like happy to do that and see their team fall off a bit for a season. But I feel like Chelsea fans, like the majority of Chelsea fans, ain't going to want to see that. If Chelsea finish below 6th next season, most of the fans are going to melt down and say, look, we finished it. Unless you're playing much better football. And I don't see that happening after one season. And that's why I agree with what they're saying, in the sense of you had something going with Poch. So really what I think Maresca should do personally, I'm not a manager, so this is just an opinion, is he should focus a bit more on keeping the kind of way they were playing a bit more like how they were when they were building the momentum, while implementing his way in the training ground. And then a season later, or 2 seasons, all of a sudden you see this switch in your players playing this way, and like, oh crap, we're playing, we can properly see the vision now. With Arsenal, it didn't happen straight away. The first season under Arteta, the first season and a half under Arteta,
but you can see what Arteta was trying to do, though. You could see what Arteta was trying to do. The difference with the problem that Arteta had is he walked into to players like Leno, players like Mustafi, players like David Luiz, who couldn't do what he wanted them to do. Whereas Maresca, he's got a bunch of players here that are quite technical, right? That should be able to play how he wants them to play, but it's not a system which they're gonna get overnight, bro. And at the same time, people need to work on their fitness. I think a lot of people, right, that look, it's easier when you've been involved in the game and whatnot when it comes to these sort of things, because you can empathize with these players. But a lot of people online think players are robots. You know what I'm saying? They actually think these guys are robots, bro. Guys have got to get fit. I watched the Wrexham game. I stayed up for that game. Yeah, it was very clear to me that these guys are not at that level yet in terms of just their fitness, which is a bare minimum that you expect from these guys. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the bare minimum, but they're not there yet, bro.
And agree, and listen, I think it's a really fair point. I mean, I look at the way you were defending and being caught in the transition, and it stands to reason that when you're fitter and the players can move quicker, it resolves itself organically in that way. I think there's got to be an adaptation. That there is no doubt. A lot of people saying preseason don't matter. I was out today with friends and our kids and everything, and we were just, the lads were all talking. I don't really do a lot of football chat when I'm out with the boys anymore, just because it's like a busman's holiday. But one of the lads made a point, and I didn't even get involved in the conversation. I just sat there and listened. And one guy was like, "Pre-season's just it's practice games. You should take nothing out of it." My mate Leon just went, he says, "I disagree." So I pricked my ears up. Like, okay, maybe I'll learn something here. He said, even if he's a Chelsea fan, he said when Chelsea first started going to America like 10 to 15 years ago, they basically played 4 or 5 MLS teams and maybe an MLS All-Stars team, and they batter them all. He says now in preseason, we spend 80% of the time playing the big Premier League and big European clubs in games. The fans are more up for it. There's more needle in it. And I believe it's not the be-all and end-all, but I think you learn a lot more about your teams now, because there was no way, if you go back 10 to 15 plus years ago, that Man United would have played Arsenal. I mean, Man United and Liverpool actually played each other 3 or 4 times in pre-seasons. We do again. We would never have done that. Part of it's money and what we get out of these places, but I do think it gives you a little bit more of an idea. And where I'm really intrigued with Chelsea is because you've got some games. I think you play Arsenal next, don't you? Or soon you play Arsenal. I think so.
I don't think we. I think we play Liverpool.
We play Liverpool. Yeah, we play Liverpool next.
Let me check.
Yeah, I look at Chelsea's fixtures. I was looking at most of the teams. So we've got some Liverpool games. Man City. Man City. You play Man City in pre-season, and then you play.
We play Club America. Saying
Club America. Yeah, Club America.
Real
Madrid, play Man City, and then Real Madrid and Inter. And that's going to, again, I mean, that's going to tell us a lot more about Maresca and your team, because everybody, by the time you get to those 3 games, it's a week or 2 away from the Premier League beginning. Is he making the adjustments to the team? And what are some of the better teams going to do to you? So I look at it as it gives you an idea. Same with Man United last night. We lost. But up until our injuries, and then we made loads of subs at half time, there was loads of great passages of play in the first half where I can walk away from that game and say, I'm happy with certain fringe players that came on in the second half. I want them gone anyway. Disappointed with some injuries. But I looked at some of our passages of play and was like, okay, that feels a little bit different. I can take something from that. But still, each preseason game that goes along, as we get more of our players back, I would expect that to continue to get better. So I do agree. I think that you can take something from modern day preseason games. I agree with my mate Leon today, because we're not playing absolute dross teams anymore. Like Man United's preseasons used to literally be, we'd play Royal Antwerp, we'd play some teams we've never heard of in China, and then we'd play like a local team, and then you'd start the Premier League. So yeah, like you didn't care about those football matches, but now you're not. Now you're playing Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Madrid. It doesn't tell you everything, but I do think it gives you a bit of an indicator. And the one thing I would say to Chelsea is I believe the Maresca out stuff is crazy, but I do think over the next 2 or 3 games, you need to see the manager making some adjustments. If he doesn't, it sends the message of sort of Big Ange-esque of, no, this is how I play, and win, lose, or draw is what we're going to do. That would then concern me, because if you start the season against Man City, and I think the most important thing for Chelsea this season is your first 5 to 10 games. I think you need a good start for the confidence to be injected into this team, because it's young still. And when you're young, confidence is important at all times for athletes. But when you're young, I think it's more important. But where I back what you're saying, Don, 100%, is I think the overreaction, you attacked really well. I actually felt your players let Maresca down yesterday in the attack. You should have scored 4 or 5 goals. But the final ball or the shooting was horrendous, and nobody's talking about that element. And I feel there's a lack of balance in the Chelsea analysis.
That's the problem, Terry. You know, people, like you're saying, a lot of these big accounts with Chelsea right now, they just focus on all the negative things, right? And in the moment that you point out anything that you can take that's a positive from it, it's you're just supporting Clear Lake. You're just supporting these mediocre players. And I'm like, bro, I'm offering some balance. I can agree with what you're saying about what we did badly, but you also have to understand that there were certain parts of the game where we actually did things quite well. Like you're saying, the final end product wasn't there, but you know, that's got to come with time, you know what I'm saying? So, bro, there's just no balance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's just no balance anymore. It's boring. I don't even bother interacting with these guys anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? Because you can't have a back-to-back conversation with them, because everything that they look at is just doom and gloom, and it can't get better. It can only get worse, basically.
Pre-season as well, like it's the overreaction. I sent it into the chat, so I see like a load of tweets someone sent it to me of the Chelsea fans. I was like, it's wild. It's pathetic in the sense, because from like pre-season, once again, you can take a lot from preseason. I'm one that says the result don't matter too much, the actual result of the game, like 2-1, as long as in that game you see what you want to see from performances from personal players or how you're playing. I know our preseason for me is a bit different to you two, because I feel like for Man United and Chelsea, it's more of let's see how we're going to play this season, whereas I'm looking at it from Arsenal's standpoint as I want to see some of these young players and some of these fringe players and how they perform, because I know that we already know how we're playing when the season starts. We ain't got to identify that. But to say a manager should be sacked after 2 preseason games when he hasn't even got his full team, like this is another thing that people forget. He hasn't got all his players. Yeah.
Bro, we're missing some key players right now. Caicedo, Cucurella, Palmer. There's a couple, man. And I'm not saying that, listen, that's the reason why we lost the games, because like you're saying, we had enough to go and do better than what we did. But ultimately, there's still more guys to come into this. You know what I'm saying? That's the main thing.
No, yeah. I agree. What's this in the comments I'm seeing from people saying Jackson could be out for 6 months? Have you heard anything about that?
Nah. I've just heard that he's got an ankle knock or ankle injury or something like that. I don't know about 6 months. That must be a latest update. But yeah, bro, this is what I was telling you lot about Gil. You know, this is when I was watching the clips back from his time at Barca, watching the games back and that. Everything that he's been doing at Chelsea so far is what he was doing at Barcelona. I know we haven't really seen much in terms of the finishing and that, but that will come with better chances being created for him. But he's someone that's stuck out, and I'm seeing a lot of Chelsea fans at the minute, even the ones that are quite toxic. They've been bigging him up quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully Jackson's fine in it. He's got a bit of an ankle knock. I don't know what's going on there.